Yato, a stray god who desires to be known through the world. Although instead of doing actual god things like defeating the demon king or teleporting someone to another world and giving them SS rank powers, he does odd jobs for only 5 yen apiece. However, as Yato was strolling in the road, a girl leaped in front of truck-Kun, taking the hit for him. When she woke up, she found herself associated with the other world and befriended Yato. However, to the public, Yato is a kind-hearted god. But for another god, they seek revenge on Yato for his actions when he was the god of calamity. The anime begins with a girl in her classroom being all depressed, hallucinating about her classmates calling her a worthless loser. Not only are the classmates making fun of her, but an ugly long monster is watching her from outside the window too. The girl gets scared for her life and anxiously prays to God to help her. Right then, a stinky looking guy tosses a coin, saying her prayers have been listened. Yato has come with his regalia, a god's weapon and spirit, Tamon. The monster is called a phantom and is formed due to students' stress about exams. Yato and Tamon begin their fight with the phantom and defeat it in no time. After the fight, Tamon shows disgust over being used by Yato's sweaty hands and asks him to release her from being his partner as he's a useless bum of a god without a shrine. Almost similar to yourself. Yato releases her from being his regalia, and she walks away happily as if she has been freed from a 15-year sentence. As a jobless god without a shrine, Yato takes up every small job he receives the honor to do. This time, he has to search for a cat named Mylord. While searching for it, he comes across a meathead wrestling fangirl, Hiyori, who is another leading character in the story. When he crosses her, he sees Mylord sitting in the middle of the road and runs into the road to catch it immediately. Suddenly, Hiyori pushes him from behind to avoid getting hit by the menace truck-Kun. They both are driven across the road, and when she notices her surroundings, she finds her body lying on the road while her soul is outside her body. Upon waking up, she is in the hospital but only vaguely remembers what happened. At night, Yato creeps into her bed like he's my uncle and scares the daylights out of her. He introduces himself as an up-and-coming stray god, Yato, and talks about his delusions of becoming the most famous god. Hiyori, thinking he's the god of Delulu, calls the police on him. He leaves soon after checking on Hiyori's health.
私は神です。
The next day, she feels dizzy all day at school, and while returning home, she comes across Mylord's missing poster, which reminds her of everything. She starts searching for the cat, but Yato finds it first. Ugly, slimy phantoms appear there, and Yato runs from them. He finds it difficult to fight with phantoms without a regalia, and he is about to be attacked by a hideous frog phantom when Hiyori arrives there and pulls him away from the phantom. She kicks the monster in the face as the spirit of John Cena possesses her, but it isn't enough to defeat it, so they run from there. Hiyori again finds her soul, which has a tail, slipped out of her body. Yato delivers Mylord to its owner and carries Hiyori while she's unconscious. Surprisingly, she finds his sweaty smell nice. After she wakes up, he tells her that she exists between the far shore, which is the afterlife, and the near shore, which is the living world. She is a half phantom and losing her body will be expected from now on. Hearing this, she begs him to turn her back. He isn't sure if she can be turned back, but being a cheap god, he agrees to help her for a mere 5 yen. When she gives him a 5 yen coin, he assures her that her wish has been heard. Ever since the incident, Hiyori feels drowsy all the time. Aside from that, she can see small phantoms around her all the time. Unknowingly, her soul leaves her body one day, and she bunks the school. She roams around the city like a bird and observes random phantoms. While hopping on the power lines, she notices a dark aura coming out of somewhere and suddenly remembers Yato has not contacted her yet. After returning to her body, she calls him to get to her. He arrives at her location and gets to know from Yato that he is the god of war, although that is long gone and now only does odd jobs. He warns her that as a living phantom, another phantom would try to possess her, and she would cross the line between worlds. She asks him to fix her already, but he instead starts blabbering about his delusions of becoming rich. He tells her that he has no regalia for now, so it will be difficult for him to help her, basically implying that he's useless. He receives a job call and leaves her behind. As a modern, independent woman, she decides to take matters into her own hands and search for a regalia for him. She notices spirits gathering at a specific location and heads there, hoping one might become Yato's regalia. Meanwhile, the god she seeks a weapon for his scrubbing bathroom mold for a coin. Aware of how pathetic his situation is, he retreats to an empty shrine of another god to drown his sorrows. He then gets a call from Hiyori informing him she has found a regalia. When he arrives, he is terrified to find a massive phantom and grabbing Hiyori, immediately flees from it. He explains to her dumbass that he can't just have those evil phantoms as his regalia. Hiyori feels agile in her phantom body, so she makes a failed attempt to show off her barely existent martial arts skills, which almost sends her to the afterlife. Yato saves her, and in the process, his arm is engulfed by the phantom. He pulls it out and takes Hiyori to a relatively safer place. He warns her to stay away from his hand because it has been defiled, and the defilement can spread to her if she's not cautious. She also learns from him that her tail connects her physical and phantom forms. If it is destroyed, she will die. The phantom arrives there too, and they start running from it again. Yato finds a pretty young spirit and has no choice but to make it his regalia. He reads chanting and makes it his regalia, a great sword. Using it, he eliminates the phantom, which vanishes into the sky. After the fight, he goes to some shrine and cleans his hand to remove blight through the water. Hiyori reaches there, and Yato gives his sword name Yukine. After receiving the name, the sword transforms into a boy who shivers from the snow and cold outside. Yato offers Yukine his jacket, but Yukine refuses, saying it reeks of sweat, so Hiyori gives her scarf to him. Yato stands there frozen, basking in the disrespect he just received from his own regalia. As Yato is a broke bum without a coin to spare, he provides Yukine with some clothes from trash bins, and for food, he finds some leftover fish from the bins. Yukine thinks the universe is playing hopscotch with his luck, because how did he get stuck with a god that loiters in streets in search for food and sleeps at someone else's shrine? To save his face a little in front of the new guy, Yato makes Hiyori treat them for lunch, and she agrees because she wants him to fix her problem. She learns from Yato that although he is a god, he is not invisible. They can be seen when noticed but get forgotten easily. After eating like pigs, they leave the restaurant. Outside, Yukine has a dirty thought about Hiyori's chest, which Yato senses immediately. Yato scolds his regalia, Yukine, for having wicked thoughts, reminding him that a god shares his mind with his regalia and can sense everything Yukine thinks. Just then, Yato receives a call and leaves, taking Yukine with him. Hiyori also clings to them as they depart. They arrive at a misty location where Yato suspects someone has lured him with a fake call. A figure appears, making cherry trees bloom and reciting lines from a poem, which makes Hiyori believe he is the god of learning, Tenjin. Awed by his godly presence, Hiyori and Yukine immediately kneel before him. Yato feels humiliated by the stark contrast in how he and Tenjin are treated. Tenjin reveals he called Yato because he has many wishes from students as exams approach and wants Yato to handle the phantoms. He mentions that Yato has been jobless and staying at one of his shrines. Initially resistant, Yato is tempted by Tenjin offering a 5-yen coin. Tenjin then summons his regalia, Mayu, who turns out to be Tamon, a former servant of Yato. Tamon mocks her previous master, calling him a sweats-wearing, stinky drifter, further tarnishing Yato's already damaged reputation in front of Yukine and Hiyori. When going for the job, Mayu tells them phantoms are going around encouraging people to off themselves. A student lost her life due to it recently. Yato seems indifferent and says that there is no saving a person who wants to commit suicide. Hiyori hates his way of thinking and moves on to save people on her own in anger. Yato is about to go back without doing his job, but Mayu compels him by saying Tenjin has paid him in advance. He has no choice but to agree, so he prepares Yukine for his first job. Hiyori is on the other side and angry over Yato. She sees a phantom clinging to a man's shoulder, so she kicks it. More phantoms appear there, and unable to fight back, Hiyori is captured by them and trapped on a railway track. Yato comes to save her, and they get on the train. They see a phantom encouraging a student to jump in front of the train, and Yato eliminates it with his regalia just in time. Going back, Hiyori realizes what Yato meant back then. He did not want the regalias to see others taking their lives when the regalia used to be people who wanted to live. At night, Yato gives Yukine a jacket to warm himself. Yukine accepts it and takes himself to sleep. However, a mysterious little girl is observing them in the shrine while they are sleeping. Yato is dreaming about him being the most popular god with a fandom called Yatoites when Yukine kicks his ass and brings him back to the harsh reality. In the morning, Hiyori brings a meal for Yato and Yukine, hoping Yato will finally fulfill her wish. Yato rises with a serious expression, signaling he's ready to take action. However, he quickly reverts to his usual antics, producing a useless pot and other random items he acquired from a scam, believing they would make him rich. Frustrated, Hiyori and Yukine immediately break the pot. Hiyori then urges Yato to consider his feelings and act like a true god. Listening to her, Yato adopts a serious demeanor and tells Hiyori that he wants her to meet someone. He brings Hiyori and Yukine to where one of the 7 gods of fortune, Kafuku, resides with her regalia, Daikoku. Yato acts so chummy with Kafuku that Daikoku has to stop them. Being mad at Daikoku for being rude to him, Yato accuses him of being a PDF file, and Hiyori hides Yukine from him immediately.
子供に興味がある。
誤解を招く言い方すんな！
Daikoku assures them that he's nothing like that and makes small talk with the kid while Kafuku annoys the hell out of Hiyori. She tells the duo that despite his goofy and dumb looks, Yato is actually a terrifying god. Right then, Yato appears, saying he has a job and takes Yukine and Hiyori with him. The job is to save a man, Yusuke, who is about to jump off a building. However, he didn't even have to do the jump himself since Yato accidentally knocks him off on his arrival. The trio chases Yusuke to save him. Even while falling, Yato manages to be insufferable by dropping a full-on introduction of himself. Hiyori cannot understand why Yato is asking questions while falling instead of saving him. Unexpectedly, the other guy is just as much of a dumbass as Yato and starts telling his story. He worked in an ad agency that went bankrupt, so he decided to off himself. He tried apologizing to his parents before jumping and accidentally called Yato. He further explains that he met a girl of Hiyori's age on a sidewalk some time ago and fell crazy in love with her. She seemed to have a strict household, so Yusuke asked her to go with him. They started dating after a while and Yusuke surpassed all levels of simping while being her boyfriend. He started noticing that every date he had with her ended up in a disaster, and his performance at his job also declined. Things reached the point that he went bankrupt. Yato thinks that he knows who the girl might be and his suspicions are confirmed when he sees the picture Yusuke shows. It is none other than Kafuku, the god of poverty, who brings disaster wherever she goes. Imagine your life is so bad that even a bad luck god manages to get you. They finally reach near the ground after a lifetime in the air, and Yato asks Yukine to cut Yusuke's ties with Kafuku. It is Yukine's first time severing ties, but he does a good job of saving Yusuke's life. In the end, Yusuke lands on the ground safely without any injury. At Kafuku's place, Kafuku tells them that she was just messing with the poor guy. When Yato and Yukine leave the place, Hiyori asks Kafuku about what she meant by Yato isn't as nice as he seems. She tells Hiyori that Yato killed his regalia and many people. However, Daikoku adds that it was long ago when people used to eliminate each other. When returning home, Yato confronts Hiyori and tells her that if something happens to him, she should go see Kafuku and Daikoku. Near a lake, Yukine is sitting, and a girl arrives saying he has eyes similar to a god. Yato goes there asking the girl, Nora, what she wants. She tells Yato to call her by name, which he gave her, and says that she'll always be waiting for him, as she disappears, and Hiyori wonders if she is also his regalia. Yato and the others are outside, where Yato picks a small phantom. He tells others that regalias has the power to draw a borderline between them and phantoms cannot pass through the borderline. He asks Yukine to draw it, so Yukine does and creates a strong borderline. Yato is impressed that the kid did this on his first try. Hiyori asks Yato about Nora and who she is, and he tells her that Nora is a friend of benefits. Hiyori decides to take Yukine with her as a filthy guy with several scandals with women like Yato is not befitting to be Yukine's guardian. Yato shows resistance as Yukine is a deprived kid going through puberty, and staying with a girl would create nasty thoughts in his mind. Due to the shared body and mind with his regalia, Yato can feel tingling pain in his body whenever Yukine thinks anything indecent of a girl. Hiyori and Yato both insist Yukine go with them, but Yukine chooses Hiyori over Yato as Hiyori for obvious reasons. They arrive at Hiyori's place, and she takes him to her brother's old room. While going down the stairs, she sees her parents have arrived with Yato behind them. But well, since he's a god, his presence isn't known to them. Yato makes a stupid cat face and does stupid things, annoying the heck out of Hiyori. They get outside and Hiyori scolds him for showing up as it defeats the whole person of taking Yukine away from him. Yato knows about Yukine's past and tells her that Yukine is afraid of the darkness. Shrines are sacred places that keep gods and regalia safe from phantoms. The night is a time of delivery and phantoms attack at this time, so he is afraid Yukine might not be able to handle this darkness. Back inside the home, Yukine comes to Hiyori's room like a 5-year-old complaining to his mother about the dark. Hiyori invites Yukine to sleep with her with the purest of intentions, not knowing that the kid before her is a pervert. Being afraid of darkness, Yukine agrees to sleep with Hiyori in bed. Hiyori smells Yato on Yukine, and the nasty smell somehow soothes her and she goes to sleep peacefully. Meanwhile, the boy can't take his eyes off her cleavage and his weird thoughts summon Yato. Yato nags him for sleeping with Hiyori and says that he's not ready for girls yet. Yukine gets flustered, saying Yato also has a girl as his regalia and does not need Yukine for his tasks. After saying it, Yukine runs inside the room. Meanwhile, out in the city, a mysterious woman rides on a lion while taking out phantoms with her American style. In the morning, Hiyori takes Yukine to a shop where Yukine takes a skateboard without buying it. Hiyori reprimands him, saying it's stealing, and puts the skateboard back in place. When she turns her head, she finds Yukine gone. She searches everywhere for him, but he cannot be found. Yato is also at the mall, and at the end of the day, Yato tells Hiyori that regalia were also human and different feelings of temptation are born in regalia. When the regalia performs the sin of acting on temptation, God can feel the pain. God rules over regalia and can give punishment to them. Hiyori leaves her body and starts searching for him again. As night approaches, Yukine starts getting scared, and in the hurry to get home, he notices a little girl. She hugs him from behind and asks him to wait for her mother with her. While talking, he tells her that her mother won't be coming for her. On listening, she starts crying and goes into the dark. Many phantoms begin to appear to corrupt the girl's soul. Yukine draws a borderline to avoid phantoms coming to the girl. But a great phantom approaches them, which Yukine cannot fight. Hiyori pulls Yukine back, whereas a phantom captures the girl. Yato arrives there and asks Yukine to eliminate the phantom possessing the girl. However, Yukine doesn't want to eliminate the girl, but Yato explains to him that it is better to free her from her suffering than to continue to let the phantom have its way. Putting his thought aside, they both succeed in eliminating the phantom. Meanwhile, someone is currently informing the blondie from before about Yato being in town and getting a new regalia. Yukine has started to be afraid of phantoms, even small ones. While being at the mall, thinking about the things happening to him, he steals a skateboard he wanted from before. Meanwhile, Hiyori is out to search for Yukine because he has been a little upset, and Yato has not come there to meet him. While skating, Yato finds Yukine and asks him where he got the skateboard. Yukine lies, saying Hiyori bought it for him. However, as they are talking, Hiyori arrives there and feels glad that Yukine is together with Yato. However, Yato asks her if she was the one who bought the skateboard for him. Seeing Yato's enraged face, she lies by accepting that she has bought it for him, which surprises Yukine. It's sunsetting time, and Yato explains twilight is the boundary between day and night. It is a time when those who live in other worlds run wild and attack as monsters. Listening to it, Yukine feels anxious and afraid of the darkness. While stating this, one of the strongest gods of war, which her name is revealed to be Bishamon, appears, riding on a lion. She attacks Yukine using her whip, but Yato pushes him aside. Yato tells them that Bishamon is out to get revenge for something. Bishamon states her motive is to bring justice and eliminate evil. Yato drives Yukine to be his regalia, and they run away, leaving Hiyori behind. As Bishamon starts chasing after them, her regalia and navigator, Kazuma, tells her Yato's exact location. She has tons of regalias, including the lion she's riding on. Yato hides behind a building, where he tells Yukine to stop being childish, and his emotions affect Yato too. Honestly, I would have tossed that regalia by now, but you know that's just me. Yato comes out of hiding to fight with Bishamon, but Yukine does not want to fight for him. While fighting with Yato, Bishamon says she won't let him destroy any regalias again. Yukine useless ass gets distracted by the newly found information, and the sword cannot deflect the bullet as it has done before. Yato starts running away again, and Hiyori goes to where Kafuku is and tells her that Bishamon is chasing Yato. There, Hiyori learns about Yato being the god of calamity, and that he has killed Bishamon's regalia in the past. Despite the information, Hiyori begs Kafuku and Daikoku to help Yato, and they agree. Hiyori tracks Yato by his nasty smell, which she is obsessed with. Yato hides in the forest, and Yukine asks Yato if he has killed Bishamon's regalia, and wants to know the reason, but Yato replies that he just wanted to eliminate her regalia. Bishamon appears, and when they are about to fight, Kafuku arrives there, and using Daikoku as his regalia, her useless ass opens a vent driving out phantoms from it. Bishamon calls her lion regalia, who bites Yato, but Nora, hidden in bushes, binds Lion using her spell. Kazuma now wants Bishamon to retreat, and while going back, she states her words to get revenge on him with her hands. After the fight, they all go to their places. Yato tries to clean the blight that has appeared on his back due to the rebellious acts of Yukine, but cannot clean it. Nora appears, saying he can use her whenever he needs to. At this point you may as well, since everyone in this anime is completely useless besides Hiyori. Bishamon relaxes in a hot spring, contemplating Yato's weakened state due to his blight. Although she had the chance to eliminate him, she chose not to. Summoning Kazuma for a status update on the opened vent, he appears and informs her that it has been 3 days since the vent opened. With the help of several shrines, it has been closed, but some phantoms escaped and need to be exterminated. Knowing it's her duty to deal with the phantoms, Bishamon leaves the hot spring and calls upon her regalia for the mission. Meanwhile, Hiyori brings breakfast to Yukine's room but finds Yato instead. She asks about his whereabouts, and Yato tells her that Yukine might be at Tenjin's place. Hiyori goes to Tenjin's shrine but doesn't find him there. Tenjin explains that he had come seeking work, hoping to escape Yato, who is seen as a jobless bum with another regalia. Tenjin declined Yukine's offer, not wanting him to become a Nora. Hiyori, confused, asks if Nora is not a name. Tenjin clarifies that Nora is a title given to those who serve multiple masters, making them prone to betrayal. This is why Noras are considered detestable within the divine community. They perform tasks that God does not wish to assign to his exclusive regalia. Hiyori leaves the area and, while standing on top of a building searching for Yukine, sees Bishamon. Suddenly, Kazuma appears behind her. He uses his power to restrain her so that Bishamon cannot sense her. Kazuma informs Bishamon that the area has been cleared of phantoms. After Bishamon leaves, Kazuma releases Hiyori from his spell and asks about Yato's condition. Yato has been suffering from a blight due to Yukine's rebellious actions. If it continues, he will die. Kazuma urges Hiyori to help Yato and deal with Yukine. Meanwhile, Yukine is frustrated that Tenjin did not hire him. Yato approaches him, offering a job, and takes Yukine with him. However, Yukine becomes angry when he realizes the job is that of a salesman. Hiyori, along with Kafuku and Daikoku, arrives, and Daikoku presents a job invitation since Yato has nothing useful to do. Suddenly, Yato feels pain in his neck and sees Yukine at the counter. Suspecting that the rebellious Yukine has started stealing money, Yato confronts him. Yukine denies it and runs away, dropping the stolen money. Yato immediately chases after him, with Hiyori following and reflecting on what Kazuma told her. She touches Yato's face, surprising the touch-deprived god, and makes him realize that regalias are not mere tools but beings with emotions. Meanwhile, Nora is with Yukine, brainwashing him into believing he is nothing but a troublesome brat, and that Yato doesn't need him. I mean, I can't say I don't agree with her, but you know. Yato arrives and transforms Yukine into a sword to eliminate a nearby phantom. However, he struggles because Yukine refuses to use his full power. Nora tries to compel Yato to use her instead, but Yato tells her to leave, insisting that he has Yukine. Despite appearing foolish, Yato knows how to handle Yukine and uses holy water to restore the sword's power. With renewed strength, Yato cuts the phantom into pieces and leaves with his useless boy. Hiyori is in her school's bathroom thinking about what Kazuma told her about Yato when she sees Yato above a bathroom stall. Yukine is there too and she beats the hell out of them, thinking they were here to peek at young girls like my uncle. Yato finally gets to speak and explains that he's here to deal with a male student sitting in a bathroom stall. Hiyori's mind short-circuits seeing him, and she beats him too. He tells her that he has come to the girls' bathroom to hide because he gets bullied every day during break time. Yukine does not seem to like that boy, Manabu, and Yato tells Yukine he is just like Manabu. Yukine hates that he is being compared with that spineless loser and runs away, slamming the door. They leave the bathroom, and Yato gives something to Manabu in exchange for his usual 5-yen coin. Yukine enters a classroom where he sees students studying and discussing regular things with friends. Yukine feels like hugging the ground from a high building. But even that's useless because he's already dead. Manabu is also in a classroom. A phantom is born, pushing him to eliminate those students or himself and forming such thoughts in his mind. He reaches into his pocket to use whatever Yato gave him and the scene switches. As Kafuku is watering her garden, Bishamon appears there with her regalia. They are there to seek augury, which is the prediction made by Kafuku about places where vents are most likely to be opened, letting Phantom into the lively world. Kafuku draws a lot of circles on maps to predict vents' location. Having so many vents opened, it is difficult for Bishamon to exterminate them all. Bishamon, aware of her tumultuous past with Yato, confronts Kafuku, suspecting she might be deliberately opening the vents to keep her away from Yato. Kafuku dismisses her concerns with a smirk, saying, "It's none of your business, but if anything happens to Yato, you'll have a storm to reckon with, and I mean the kind where you lose your umbrella and your dignity." Taken aback, Bishamon leaves, muttering about how dealing with gods is worse than herding cats. Meanwhile, Hiyori, worried about Yato, searches for him at school and finds him in the infirmary. As she tries to inspect his blight by lifting his shirt, he wakes up, catching her in an awkward position. Embarrassed, she punches him in self-defense. "I swear, I was just checking for blight. I'm not a pervert," she insists, blushing furiously. Yato, nursing his nose, replies, "Sure, Hiyori, next time try knocking first." Hiyori then expresses her concern about Yukine, and Yato, sensing a dark aura, wonders whether it's related to Manabu or Yukine. "Why do these things always happen when I'm trying to take a nap?" He groans. Manabu, in a tense confrontation, threatens a bully with a blade given by Yato but hesitates to use it. The bully, terrified, wets himself due to Manabu's menacing presence. "Seriously, dude." Manabu sighs, "Now I need new shoes." Meanwhile, Yukine, struggling with his identity, starts breaking school windows, causing Yato's blight to spread across his body. Hiyori, carrying Yato on her back, gets infected by the blight as well. "You know, Yato," she says, huffing under his weight, "I really need to start charging you for piggyback rides." They encounter Yukine, and Hiyori reveals that Yato has been suffering because of his actions. "Yukine, if you could stop breaking stuff and causing blights, that'd be great." Yato's running out of clean shirts. Arriving at Kafuku's place, Daikoku, seeing their blight, draws a boundary to prevent them from entering and spreading the infection further. "Sorry, no blights allowed," he says, waving them off. "Try coming back when you're not contagious." Hiyori informs Kafuku and Daikoku that Yato is about to die. Daikoku lets only Hiyori enter Kafuku's home, where he asks Kafuku to cleanse Hiyori's blight. Yukine has to be punished for Yato's blight, which only ablution can achieve. It requires 3 regalia to be performed. Besides Daikoku, they require 2 more regalia, and Daikoku goes out to get them. He first goes to Tenjin's shrine, where Mayu agrees to help him. Daikoku goes to different shrines to ask for help, but no one agrees. Hiyori listens to Kafuku on a call with Daikoku, who tells her they require 1 more regalia. Hiyori herself leaves the house to get one. First, she thinks of Nora but decides to ask Kazuma. She goes directly to Bishaman's shrine and shouts Kazuma's name loudly. Daikoku reaches home, telling Kafuku he has 1 regalia with him. Hiyori reaches there, bringing Kazuma with him. It makes Daikoku surprised that the Kazuma group is against Yato's. So how come he has come there? Kazuma explains that he owes Yato personally, and that's the reason he has come there to help him. Kazuma asks Yato to revoke Yukine's name and expel him, but Yato does not agree. Kazuma asks Yukine what he has done with Yato, but Yukine is indifferent, saying he did nothing special. They make Yukine strip off his shirt and discover phantoms harboring his body, revealing the extent of his god's suffering. 3 regalia surround Yukine, creating borderlines around him, initiating the ritual of ablution. This process forces the regalia to confess his sins to the others who will punish him. If the sinner denies his wrongdoings, he starts transforming into a phantom. Yukine, unwilling to accept his actions, begins this transformation. As Yukine struggles, he reluctantly admits to stealing and breaking things but justifies it by claiming that living beings deserve it since they possess everything. Trapped within the boundaries, he resists, causing Yato to share in his agony. The phantom within Yukine spreads, threatening to consume him completely. Yato, weakened, attempts to call Yukine by his name but lacks the strength. Hiyori rushes toward the boundaries, calling out Yukine's name. She pleads with him not to transform into a phantom, warning that she won't be his friend anymore if he does. The BS power of friendship starts to break through to Yukine, helping him regain consciousness. Yato, mustering his strength, also calls out to Yukine, reminding him that he gave him a name and wants him to live as a person. Moved by their words, Yukine comes to his senses and confesses his crimes, ending the ablution. By morning, the regalia are exhausted from punishing him. Yato instructs Yukine to apologize to Hiyori, who has done everything to keep Yato alive. She embraces them both, crying, bringing smiles to everyone around them. Yukine works diligently under Daikoku to repay the money he stole, hoping to obtain books from Hiyori that she would otherwise discard after finishing school. Yato and Hiyori, moved to tears like proud parents, cheer him on. "Look at our little thief, all grown up and hitting the books." Kafuku arrives and informs Hiyori that she is in debt because she had sought Kafuku's help. "You know, helping a friend out," Kafuku says with a grin. "But even friends have a price tag." Despite offering a student discount, Kafuku saddles Hiyori with a 1,000,000 yen debt. Hiyori tackles Yato, demanding, "How do you plan to pay this off?" Another round of 5 yen wishes. The trio heads to Tenjin's shrine to express their gratitude for his past assistance. While Yato converses with Tenjin, Mayu pulls Hiyori and Yukine aside. Hiyori inquires about a missing regalia in the shrine. Mayu explains that the missing regalia was corrupted due to Yukine's condition. Tenjin is pretty strict about these things. Mayu says, "I hear he doesn't even let his regalias play with dirty laundry." Punishing the regalia through ablution, Tenjin considers hurting oneself or others a betrayal of the master. Revoking one after ablution is an act of kindness, so another master can take them, she adds. Yukine is fortunate Yato still keeps him. "You've got a heart of gold, Yato," Hiyori teases, "or maybe just a brain of jelly." Inside the shrine, Yato asks Tenjin how to fix Hiyori, as she has been staying in her phantom form lately. Although Hiyori has paid him for it, Yato has not considered it because he does not know the solution. "It's like trying to fix a car with a sushi roll," Yato jokes. Hiyori has helped him greatly and he wants to return the favor. Tenjin suggests he cut ties with her as he has been pulling her into their world. "Great, just cut the cord like it's a bad TV subscription," Yato mutters. After school, Hiyori goes out with her friends and learns about a god named Rabu, reputed to make people disappear upon request. "Disappearing act, huh?" Hiyori quips. "Maybe he should start a magic show." Yato is at work when Hiyori calls, inviting him to Tenjin's shrine for the first New Year visit. Yato agrees when she mentions there will be food stalls. "You had me at food," Yato replies with a grin. Dressed in her beautiful kimono, Hiyori joins her friends to go to the shrine. At the shrine, she spots what she thinks is Yato and runs towards him in her phantom form, leaving her body behind with her friends. However, Yato and Yukine have not yet arrived. They are attacked by phantoms on the way and fight back. "Just another day in the life," Yato says, dodging an attack. A white-haired man, previously seen with Nora, also appears. Meanwhile, Hiyori reaches a park following what she believes is Yato but does not find him. On her way back, Nora confronts her and attacks with puppet dogs, aiming to bite her tail. Hiyori evades and leaps to a building where the sunlight causes the dogs to vanish. I guess even ghost dogs hate Mondays, she jokes. Nora informs Hiyori that Rabu has awakened and intends to kill Yato. She also claims that Yato has weakened because of Hiyori and then does something to her. You really know how to ruin a girl's day, don't you? Hiyori grumbles. Yato eventually defeats all the phantoms, impressing Rabu with his strength. Still got it, he smirks. Yato and Yukine then head towards Hiyori, who is on her way home. Yato starts acting in his usual goofy manner, but Hiyori does not recognize him.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Leaving him frozen in shock. Wait, you don't remember this handsome face, he exclaims. Talk about a cold shoulder. Hiyori does not remember Yato or anything about him. It bothers Yato so much that he decides to bring her back to normal. He takes Hiyori to where they first met, rescuing a cat, Mylord. He becomes Da Vinci for a moment as he draws Mylord's portrait. After many hints, she cannot remember who Yato is and wants to go back as she has arrived there to give Yukine her books. It makes Yato sad, and he decides to draw a picture book to make her remember him back. Yato and Yukine go out to buy art materials to make picture books and spend all the yen he has collected. While coming back, Nora appears there and Yato learns she is behind all this stuff. Nora does not want Hiyori to indulge in far shore matters and expects Yato to return to his normal self. Nora is the regalia of Yato The God, who used to be an acquaintance of Yato back there. Rabu appears there, transforms Nora into his sword, and attacks Yato. Yato and Yukine fight back. Yato shows his killing intent to Rabu, as Rabu would eliminate him if they held back. Rabu tries to make Yato remember his past, where his extent of power was not like his present self. The atmosphere gets filled with the dark aura, which makes other gods alert. Rabu is strong enough to injure Yukine, who transforms back into a human self. Nora returns to human form and promises Yato that if he can defeat Rabu, she will return Hiyori's memories. Saying it, they disappear from sight. Yukine is at Kafuku's home, where Kazuma visits them. Yukine learns Rabu is the god of calamity born out of people's evil desires in order to eliminate others. He killed people to fulfill those desires along with his partner, Yato, who is also a god of calamity, used to be partners with him. We see a super cool and badass Yato in a flashback.
That's what I'm talking about.
Totally opposite from his present loser self. Kafuku tells Yukine that Hiyori knows all about it, and she decides to stay friends with Yato as she knows he has changed. Yato is at Tenjin's shrine, where the old man tells Yato that it might be better for Hiyori not to remember him and avoid her transformation into a half-phantom. While returning, he meets Yukine, who has decided to make Hiyori remember Yato, but Yato shows no concern. Yukine finishes the storybook Yato was working on himself and shows it to Hiyori, but Hiyori cannot remember anything. Nora meets Yato again. He sees the memory orb of Hiyori dripping. Nora wants Yato to visit them. With that dripping, Hiyori loses her memory about Yukine when she is about to take a coloring book from Yukine but does not take it. Yukine cries at the lake about Hiyori forgetting them. Yato joins him, and they decide to bring her memory back. They go to Hiyori's place, where they tell her they will get her memory back and want her to rest and wait. For some reason, she starts crying, and when Yato and Yukine are about to disappear, she clings to Yato's shoulder, but Yato and Yukine vanish from sight, and her body falls. Rabu and Nora are at the place that used to be Rabu and Yato's shrine. Yato and Yukine arrive there, but Hiyori, in phantom form, also appears with them. Yato and Rabu start fighting with their regalias right away. Rabu captures Yato in his water orb. Yato is unable to cut it from the inside, and Hiyori saves them from it. Yato thanks Hiyori and makes a grateful face, which pisses Rabu off because he's a bitter old man without a speck of romance in his life and can't bear seeing a fellow god of calamity get chummy with a girl. He wants Yato to be in God of Calamity form and cross swords with him then. Rabu goes to Hiyori to attack her, but Yato comes there and runs, taking Hiyori with him. They reach a distant place where Yato wants Yukine to run with Hiyori, and he would stay behind as Rabu wants Yato. Rabu arrives there too, carrying an orb of Hiyori memories. He throws it far away. Yato goes to it, following it, but Rabu breaks it through his sword. Hiyori loses her consciousness and becomes a vessel without memories. Yato carries her body to the side. He finally gets the stereotypical hero getting mad at the villain for hurting his girl Rage. Seeing a dark storm in the environment, Bishaman learns that it is due to God's calamitous appearance. Yato has become strong with killing intent showing in his eyes, exactly what Rabu desired. Rabu cannot stand a chance against Yato and absorbs Dark Storm. merging with phantoms to eliminate Yato. They fight, and it results in the crumbling of rock. Some rocks are about to fall on Hiyori, and Yato rushes back to save her. Yato gets on top of Hiyori so the rocks don't hit her. Hiyori is unconscious, but the same old nasty scent of Yato that she's obsessed with wakes her up. She hugs Yato and holds his face, implying that she has remembered everything. In a sweet moment, they share a romantic spark. But Hiyori quickly reverts to her usual self, playfully kicking Yato back to reality. Nora, wide-eyed, can't believe Hiyori broke free from her spell without breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, Hiyori finds herself unjustly blamed by Rabu for Yato's predicament, leading to a not-so-friendly capture. Yato, ever the strategist, urges Yukine to go on a phantom slaying spree, leaving Rabu's crew in shambles. With a flick of his wrist, Yato sends Rabu packing, alone and vulnerable. It's a classic case of one-man army, well, a god. Technically, in a surprising twist, Yato emerges victorious, leaving Rabu begging for a quick end, a move that's like asking for dessert after a heavy meal. As tensions ease, Nora, looking like she just lost a game of Monopoly, decides it's time to spill the beans to Daddy Dearest. Back at home base, Yato, with a somber tone, suggests Hiyori cut ties for a shot at a normal life, but she's having none of it, asserting her commitment to their dynamic duo. At Kafuku's hangout, Hiyori, with a hint of awkwardness, spills her guts about wanting to stick with Yato forever, cueing Yato's blush, turning him into a teenage girl at a boy band concert. He then hilariously extends his hand, pulling a "your wish is my command" act, but hey, even gods have bills to pay. Hiyori, playing along, hands him a measly 5-yen coin, which he accepts with all the enthusiasm of a kid with a new toy, wrapping up the moment with a comedic bow. Hiyori walks into her first day of high school, excited to have a new beginning initiated in her life. However, a single moment of zoning out and her soul is out of her body. But what leaves her in even more confusion and panic is that her body is currently wildly solving math problems on the board and moving around like it isn't wearing a short skirt. Turns out it is Yato who has possessed her body and is ready to have some fun for the day. Everyone is amused by Hiyori's behavior, unaware of the soul shift, while Kafuku appears there to tag along with Yato into messing around at school. Poor real Hiyori wants to dig her grave in embarrassment while Yato wanders around flirting with every man he gets a chance at, just to manipulate them into knowing about his business. Currently, Yukine is given the job of stalking Yato and Kafuku by Daikoku but gets caught by Mayu. She takes him to Tenjin to report about Yato's mischief. Tenjin tells Yukine that Yato might get some punishment from the heavens if something wrong happens due to his actions. Yukine seems to really want to see Yato get punished, and we all understand why. Hiyori is close to giving up on her social life and even switching schools, but she suddenly gets a boost of motivation from an example of a fighter who always stands up after his falls. She goes to confront Yato and fight him while Yato is currently flirting with the entire football team into wanting them to win. Hiyori is about to step forward when Tenjin and Mayu appear there. They call Yato extra, but they are currently dressed in overly extravagant attires in the name of disguise. Cherry on top is how they read the youngsters and impart wisdom upon them in poetic words. Enchanted by the two, students gather around, leaving Hiyori and Yukine to handle the trouble on their own. Yato is currently mad at the team for not playing well and wonders why misfortune keeps happening to them even though they are a good team. Pretty dumb of Yato and Kafuku to not understand the presence of the god of poverty around. Kafuku also seems to wonder the reason when Daikoku smacks her and drags her away for not understanding she is the cause. Yato, on the other hand, has decided to take matters into his own hands, more like his own feet. Throwing Hiyori's blazer, he rushes to the field, and with the heroic entry comes some amazing shots and an extraordinary win. Hiyori is praised by the entire student body, but the praise belongs to Yato. Yukine looks to Hiyori in worry, only to be dismayed by her also cheering for Yato. Hiyori also ended up enjoying the moves pulled by Yato in her body, but it only lasted till Yato decided to go for a shower. She tries to attack Yato, but it all fails and Yato walks away knowing she can't take him out by herself. While Yato is trying to change in the lockers, a secret camera can be seen recording Hiyori's body from a perfect angle. A perverted student is enjoying the video when Hiyori's soul and Yukine appear there. The guy falters in panic, questioning how they got there and how Hiyori is in two places. Yukine deciphers that the student has been touched since he can see them and tries to go out. In fear of Hiyori reporting the incident, the student decides to off himself. Using all her might, Hiyori holds the arm of the student to keep him from falling. Yukine tries to help her, but what can they do if they keep a pink-haired misfortune around them? Kafuku bumps into Hiyori, making her lose their grip on the guy's arm. In time, Yato jumps out of the window, holds the guy, and lands safely on the ground. Slapping and scolding him for the cowardly act, Yato walks away after impressing the entire school. He realizes his shoulder has been dislocated, but Tenjin and Mayu also dislocate him for what he has been doing all day. An upside-down Yato cries for forgiveness as he is beaten up. He starts crying even more that he wants to spend time with Hiyori and in high school like others. This makes Hiyori forgive him and wipe his tears, only for the waterworks to start again for the kind soul's forgiveness. Since Suzuha's cherry blossom tree has been blossoming, Yukine, Hiyori, and Yato sit there for a picnic. However, the company starts arriving from Kafuku and Daikoku, followed by Tenjin and Meiyu, and finally, Bishamon and the company also appear there. Hiyori invited her because Suzuha was once her shinki and Yukine expects her to behave or leave. For the sake of her shinki, Bishamon decides to stay, but it only means that Yato and Bishamon would sit by the tree and keep glaring at each other while chugging down bottles of alcohol and wine. Everyone gets along well and Kuraha suddenly asks Bishamon to transform him, turning into a lion. It seems like Kuraha is about to attack Yato, but he jumps through fire hoops and creates his circus show. The show, however, gets better when the lion's mane catches fire and it jumps into the water. Bishamon and Yato are in sync from shock to amusement to going back to glaring at each other and drinking again. Kazuma thanks Hiyori for inviting them and shares how he wants Bishamon to become the greatest of gods one day. Yukine feels jealous after knowing that other shinkis get paid and free vacations while his savings get stolen by his god. Suddenly, the commotion behind catches everyone's attention. Yato and Bishamon are at each other's neck ready to fight when Bishamon gets vulnerable, talking about how Yato is not to be blamed for what happened to Bishamon, but she is the one that needs to be blamed. Yato suddenly keeps his palm on her mouth and kisses it, shocking everyone to the entirety of their hearts. Yato then starts laughing by messing with her, which makes her hit him like she is earning points by doing so. They start accusing each other with names yet again when Tenjin tries to resolve the matter. In the heat of the moment, both of them call Tenjin the laziest god ever, so it is no shock that they receive electric shocks afterwards. The next day, Yukine finds a job request for shinkis and Daikoku is about to brief him about it when Yato appears there tearing the magazine. Daikoku holds Yato from destroying it even more and calls it important for Yukine. However, Yato doesn't want Yukine to witness this, so it is no wonder he had to be tied to a tree yet again to be restricted. Reading Daikoku's magazine, Yukine is shocked at how shinkis are also recruited and how amazing the offers in the magazine are. Daikoku punishes Yato by filling cement in his feet for hiding the magazines from Yukine. Meanwhile, Yukine and Hiyori are reading the interview that Meiyu gave in which she insulted Yato for not giving her a temple to stay, spending her money, and sometimes harassing her. The harassment was just poor Yato touching Meiyu lightly, but credited to his reputation for being accused of more than what he does. Daikoku tells Yukine to fill out the questionnaire in the magazine and fly it to the sky for the Shinki agency to collect it. Hiyori feels sad that Yukine is doing this but keeps out of it. While everyone gets their reports back, Yato, Hiyori, and Yukine are once again at the cherry blossom tree where Yato whines about his king's emblem changing its shape to look like poop. However, the sadness changes to content upon seeing Yukine mentioning being satisfied with his god in the questionnaire. With happiness and a fulfilled feeling, the three decide to visit the tree the next year too. The next day, Bishamon gets a nightmare of the worst day of her past when she was helpless and injured while Yato cold-heartedly eliminated many of her pathetic regalias. She only seeks revenge against Yato after this incident. However, Yato couldn't care less because he's clearly happily looking for odd jobs like my uncle is a god, while Yukine is sitting at the side questioning Yato's childish excitement. Hiyori excitedly gets ready for her day in school, confident about her prep exams, but when she gets to school and starts explaining a concept of Dr. Disrespect to a friend, her useless soul slips out again. Hiyori decides to jump around the town to pass her time and ends up sensing some familiar smell. But Yato and Yukine is currently at a house changing a baby's diaper and putting him to sleep when Hiyori enters the place. Yato is surprised that she managed to find them that easily, considering locating a god is even hard for any other god themselves, while Yukine and Hiyori are more surprised at how easily Yato is handling the kid. Turns out his mother was too tired and passed out some moments ago. Hiyori sits and observes how Yukine got excited that the baby could see him, so Yato decided to tell him how to pick and play with a baby. Yato also explains to them that babies can see unnatural things but will eventually forget about those abnormal things at a certain age. Suddenly, the environment of the room changes and a phantom in the form of a stuffed rabbit appears from the wall behind Hiyori. Hiyori counters against the phantom and Yato leaves the rest to himself and takes Yukine as his sword while Hiyori handles the baby. Yukine is a little scared as it is a closed space with a baby inside, but Yato gives him confidence that he can handle creating a boundary of who to hurt and who do not. Hiyori's being beside a mirror makes Yato figure that the phantom was created by the baby's loneliness as he played with his reflection in the mirror, so the evil spirit lies inside the mirror. So yes, even babies can create demons, I guess. Yukine successfully gets rid of the phantom in the mirror. Yato wants to leave without cleaning the mess, but the other two rational people stop him from doing so. Bishamon asks Kazuma to look for Yato yet again as she wants to have her revenge. While Hiyori teaches Yukine, Yato brags about getting a magic gem for a heavy price only for it to be an ordinary keychain for which Mr. Adult got scammed. Yato and Yukine walk around while Yato screams about his job like a street vendor when he notices Bishamon and barely dodges him. He tells Yukine to avoid encounters with her at all costs. Bishamon finds a human with a phantom attacking her. With the help of her regalias, she easily gets rid of the phantom and transforms the girl into her regalia too, even though she becomes a broken regalia due to being a torn spirit. The girl, Mina, is welcomed by Bishamon to her huge family of regalias. Kazuma, however, worries about Bishamon for her heart to save everyone also makes her suffer since a master faces the effects of the clouded minds and the tainted feelings of former humans that become regalias. Bishamon tells him not to worry and proceeds towards her ritual bath. While she bathes, Kyugaha mentions hearing a rumor about Kazuma going to Yato's ablution ritual a while back, but Bishamon is confident in her trust in Kazuma. Yato tries to manipulate Hiyori into bringing him some cheese buns while she reminds him to help her with the issue he promised about soon too, or she won't leave him alone. For the promise for the few people that may have forgotten, it was to return her back to normal, although at this rate that's far from happening. Yukine hangs out with another regalia, Suzuha, whom he met outside, but it is only after a good amount of time that the conversation about who regalia he is comes up. Yukine stops in his tracks upon getting to know that his new friend belongs to Bishamon. To his misfortune, Kuga is around to hear he belongs to Yato. While Kuga is busy collecting sap for some pills while Nora visits him, Kuga tells her he met Yato and finds him useful for his future plans. Yato and Yukine have a very intense meeting in the attic. But it turns out Yukine just wanted to inform Yato about making a new friend. Although the only friend I had in the attic was my uncle. Mayu later keeps on dissing Yato while praising Yukine for socializing and not being like Yato. Yukine gets excited to see Suzuha so much that he doesn't even spend much time with him and keeps rushing around. Yato is surprised that Suzuha has never heard of Yato before even though he serves Bishamon. But it is good for him, so he lets it slide. Yukine insults Yato when Suzuha praises Bishamon because while Bishamon has a huge family of regalias that live in luxury, Yato steals Yukine's money and gets insulted all the time. Suzuha, however, is a little jealous of how close the two seem, while his master hasn't even called his name in a long time. Suzuha then shows Yukine a cherry blossom tree that he was treating. He promised this girl, Tomoko, who used to visit her grandmother in this area, that he would care about this tree with her. However, the girl always used to forget about him and stopped visiting soon. This makes Yukine sad as he fears Hiyori will forget about them soon too. He shares this fear with Yato and cries about it while Yato calmly listens to him, clearly feeling sad but hiding. Yukine finally tells Yato that Suzuha serves Bishamon at night. Suzuha is observing the tree when Kyugaha visits him and coldly mentions how Tomoko will never come back again, nor will he ever be remembered or called by Bishamon again. He leaves a broken Suzuha telling him his life has no purpose, and on just then, he gets hunted down by phantom dogs. Bishamon wakes up with immense pain in her chest as she realizes one of her regalias has died. The next day, Yukine and Hiyori visit the three and wait for Suzuha, unaware of his painful death, while Yato stalks them around, which earns him a beating from Hiyori. While walking around, Bishamon realizes seeing the withered flowers that Suzuha is the one who died. She walks around trying to communicate with her other regalias, but everyone hides their problems from her, not wanting to hurt her. Kazuma worries seeing a tired and weak Bishamon sleeping but gets serious upon seeing a blight on her neck. He summons all the regalias to check which one has gotten corrupted. But no one has any mark on their body. Even Kyugaha is spotless. Kyugaha tells Kazuma that he might be getting overprotective, which seems true to everyone else, as when Bishamon visits them, the mark on her neck is gone. Kyugaha visits Suzuha's tree where Yato is currently standing. Yato can sense the smell of dogs and is sure he killed Suzuha. Kyugaha attacks Yato with slashing barriers, assuming he is powerless without his regalia, but Yato humbles him a little. Kyugaha leaves, but not before hitting a nerve by hoping Yato doesn't fade away by their next meeting. Yato screams sadly about not disappearing as long as this someone remembers him. Nora feeds her murderous dogs while Kyugaha mentions confidently that Bishamon is weak enough, and some of her regalias are ready to fall by only a little push, so they will be able to take her down soon. Aya goes to Kyugaha wanting her phantom to disappear so she doesn't harm Bishamon, as if she isn't doing so by being jealous and harassing her fellow regalias. Kyugaha takes this opportunity to manipulate Aya. Hiyori buys the cheese buns for Yato, but her friends start getting suspicious that she has a boyfriend. When she gets free and turns to walk away, she smells the presence of Yato, who is currently hiding in a trash can and stalking her. She hands him the buns and assures him that she can meet him daily so he doesn't fear that she will forget him. She also tells him she will keep her promise and not forget him even if they don't meet. Yato gets shy and hides in the trash can yet again. Kazuma apologizes to Kyugaha for his doubts earlier. Kyugaha informs him about losing Suzuha in the lower realm, which makes Kazuma leave to investigate the death. Yato, on the other hand, refuses to let Yukine try to find Suzuha since he has an idea Suzuha is dead, and also because the area isn't safe anymore. Kyugaha uses the opportunity to care for Bishamon to tell her that Suzuha was friends with Yato's regalia. Yukine is adamant to go to the cherry blossom tree and uses food to distract Yato from stalking him. He finds Kazuma by the tree placing flowers there. Yukine wonders if this has something to do with Yato telling him the place is not safe. Yato feels his chest ache, making him worry about Yukine when Nora suddenly appears there trying to manipulate Yato into getting rid of the strings that hurt him. Yukine follows Kazuma to ask about Suzuha, but he ends up touching Kazuma the moment he goes back. Yukine ends up in Bishamon's palace, but his desperation to know about Suzuha is greater at the moment. Kazuma tries to silence him that Suzuha is dead and to stop from Bishamon finding out about him, but Bishamon appears to be standing right behind them. She points a gun at Yukine while Yukine starts screaming at Bishamon for letting Suzuha get attacked and die. He blames her for having too much regalia and that she cannot protect them. Bishamon seems pained, but this also proves the rumor about Kazuma saving Yato. Kazuma tries to tell Bishamon that Yato is her savior, but Bishamon is angry and banishes Kazuma. Her weakness, however, stops her from taking away his name. Kazuma ends up in Kafuku's residence while Kyugaha uses this opportunity to have every other regalia move on from Kazuma. Yukine ends up being depressed as he loses a friend and causes trouble for Kazuma. This takes a toll on Yato as well, but when Yato and Hiyori discuss it outside, Eiha appears there attacking him. Yato is well aware he has been attacked after making sure Yukine is not here, but the appearance of excessive phantoms by the courtesy of Kyugaha prevents him from doing anything. Hiyori's soul gets trapped by Kyugaha as Yato leaves to catch Eiha. Kazuma tries to save Hiyori, but Kyugaha seems to have an upper hand in the situation and takes Hiyori's soul hostage. However, Yato assumes all this is a doing of Bishamon. Hiyori wakes up in a prison cell where Kazuma is looking outside. Kazuma tells her he has tried everything to get out but failed. Hiyori worries about Yato, but Kazuma tells her she might die here too if left for a little too long. Yato worries about Hiyori while she lies in the hospital. Kazuma wonders why Kyugaha and Eiha are using their names for to not be affected when he calls them out. Hiyori questions why his name is different than others. Kazuma tells her that all her new regalias are the Ha clan, but he is the sole survivor of the clan that was slaughtered by Yato, the Ma clan. Bishamon is ready to kill Yato as well as Kazuma. Yukine feels responsible for what happened to Hiyori, but Yato simply came to take him to get her back from Bishamon. Daikoku tries to stop him, but Yato doesn't even respond to his voice. Kazuma tells Hiyori how badly Bishamon took the killing of her clan, which built her hatred for Yato as well as her kindness in making every torn soul her regalia even though they turn out to be weak. Kazuma suddenly figures Kyugaha is doing all this for succession. Eiha shouts at Kyugaha as the phantoms on her body are spreading. Kyugaha finally reveals that Eiha is now vulnerable to listening to him or having herself finished as a traitor. Kazuma figures that Kyugaha plans on having Bishamon killed. Since her name will still be called a god, she will be reincarnated and he will take over Kazuma as her new guiding voice and control Bishamon from there on. And Kyugaha kidnaps Hiyori, so Yato gets mad and kills Bishamon. Yato and Yukine go to Bishamon's palace with the aid of Tenjin. He then straight up intrudes into the palace. Bishamon is already outside ready to fight him while Yato and Yukine realize that without Kazuma's guidance, her attacks are more wild and irrational. Yato is still handling things well while confronting Bishamon about Hiyori, but Bishamon is unaware of what he is talking about. Hiyori asks why Yato killed her clan, so Kazuma reveals he is responsible for it. Back then, he was the weak regalia among others, so when Bishamon fell sick and got blighted, the regalias started fighting about who the traitor was and started becoming phantoms in enmity among each other. This made Bishamon even more vulnerable, so Kazuma had no choice but to ask the god of calamity, Yato, to kill all the regalias before they consumed Bishamon. Yato did them a favor, but Bishamon started hating him, unaware of the reality. This is why Kazuma refers to Yato as their savior and enemy at the same time. Hiyori is now even more worried that the commotion outside needs to be stopped. Outside, Yato is finally separated from Yukine, but as Yato is being attacked brutally, Yukine in his sword form comes forth and gets cut into two to save Yato from the fatal blow. Kazuma and Hiyori try their best to break the door, but Hiyori starts to lose the connection to her body and falls weak, making Kazuma worry about her too. Yato starts feeling the pain of Yukine getting hurt, which makes Bishamon mock him about the pain of losing a regalia. But when Yato still doesn't feel his name removed, he calls Yukine yet again. The energy of his appearance is enough to push back Bishamon. Two blades appear in Yato's hands as it turns out Yukine's ultimate sacrifice and loyalty made him transform into an ultimate regalia. This time, Yukine can dodge the stronger attacks too. While Bishamon is still fighting, the effects of medicine on Eiha wear off and her phantom starts spreading. Bishamon screams in the pain of getting so brutally corrupted, but she is not the only one affected. All the regalias attached to her at the moment get blighted too, but Bishamon refuses to release them yet. The regalia is not connected to her worry about who could be corrupted, but Bishamon still adamantly starts fighting Yato. Hyuga finally reveals his true intentions in front of Aya, that he doesn't want to live among these weak regalias that Bishamon keeps hoarding. Bishamon is still strong with her hatred, but Yukine's transforming is serving Yato good defense now. All the regalias get inside the palace to protect themselves when Kuraha comes across Aya. Bishamon seems to be getting blinded by her hatred as she refuses to acknowledge the pain of her regalias and keeps using them as weapons. Inside the palace, Kugaha's phantom starts devouring the weak defenseless regalias, making Bishamon think Yato is behind all the deaths she is feeling. Kuraha takes Aya to get Kazuma out. Hiyori insists on tagging along to stop Yato from killing Bishamon. On their way back, Kuraha apologizes for not noticing Kugaha concealing Bishamon's blights. Hiyori feels bad for all the regalias for faking smiles to protect Bishamon, as she likes how Yato and Yukine bicker out their problems and resolve them right away. Bishamon keeps wildly blaming and attacking Yato. Yato starts to find it disturbing that she isn't releasing her regalias and is about to kill her when Hiyori appears there. Kazuma explains the entire situation to Yato, but Bishamon is still mindless and attacking everyone around her to kill Yato. Yato feels like killing her is the only way to stop her at the moment, but Kazuma pushes him away, receiving the blow by Bishamon's attack. He hugs Bishamon and starts taking all her blights to himself while explaining the situation of the past and how he is to be blamed instead of Yato. It was just her hatred for Yato that made her strong again, so Kazuma didn't have the guts to tell her the truth. Bishamon wails like a child on this closure while hugging Kazuma. Yato tells her to release her regalia, which she does while crying about losing a lot of regalias yet again. Yukine wonders who is killing them if not Yato, but it is obvious who is behind all this. Hyuga finally gives his appearance, shocking the ones who were unaware of him being behind all this. He still calls himself loyal and starts insulting Bishamon that she was supposed to be a fierce god of war who only made strong regalias, but she started collecting weak people as well and hoarding them. He keeps insulting her for being wrong and incompetent and insinuating that she should kill herself and get reincarnated with him as her new guiding voice. The moment he is about to touch her face, his hand gets cut off. Yato stops him from touching Bishamon and starts mocking him for acting like a whiny kid and causing so much trouble just to get some attention from Bishamon. Yato tells Kugaha that a god can never be wrong. Kugaha gets offended by that and refuses to accept that he did anything wrong. He then brings out a mask that creates a phantom to attack Yato. The phantom attacking the people inside gets to the two girls left alive, but they run towards the spiritual pond of Bishamon for safety. Yato faces the phantom while Kugaha keeps sending snarky remarks to Yato about being weak and worthless. He doesn't shut up until Yato easily defeats the phantom. However, before Yato could reach out to Kugaha, Bishamon came in between. She still considers him dear to her due to all the memories they have together. Kugaha is still insistent that he never betrayed Bishamon, which turns out to be true as Bishamon didn't get stung when he said. However, when she gets to know that he released the phantom to devour other regalias, she takes away his name and banishes him outside her palace. She leaves to save her remaining subordinates and Yato tries to follow to help, but Hiyori tells him to let her handle this. Yato makes sure to tell her he thinks she is never wrong. Bishamon appears there at a time and saves her remaining regalia while putting the affected ones down to remove their pain. Kazuma dreams about the past during this, but when he wakes up, Bishamon tells him about the remaining regalias recovering and Aya patiently getting her ablution. She also tells him that she still needs him as her guiding voice no matter if he thinks he doesn't deserve this. Bishamon thinks he is allowed to make mistakes as a human, so no matter how much he messes up, she will still cherish him. Everyone gathers in the room upon seeing him awake, and he gets to witness a cute honest exchange among them on the topic of the exchange diary Bishamon brought up to get to know everyone. Kazuma gets emotional upon getting accepted again in this family. Everyone gets excited and relieved upon seeing the three return safe and sound. Yato brags about Yukine becoming his imperial regalia, making everyone have a mix of emotions. Hiyori is happy about all that, but she suddenly recalls her entrance exam and starts leaving. Tenjin stops her to remind Yato that he promised to sever ties with Hiyori so he doesn't put her in harm again. Hiyori refuses to let that happen as she doesn't want to forget about him shocking Yato and everyone else. Hiyori manages to pass her exam last minute and also manages to stop Yato from breaking ties with her. Yato is currently bugging her about joining some club of his, making her chase him around. Bishamon on the other hand gets called on accountability for her behavior of acting rashly for some personal gain of hers. She is also questioned for letting go of Kugaha, who brought a masked phantom to her shrine. Bishamon mentions Kugaha being someone else's Nora as his name by her wasn't able to bind him. This proves to everyone that there is a corrupted god amongst the named gods. Okunenashi and the other 6 gods of fortune invite Bishamon for a party, but Bishamon is surprised to see Abisu missing amongst them. On an interesting note, Abisu is currently in front of Yato paying him and Yukine loads of money to buy Yukine as imperial regalia. Yukine is just getting to know that he is also Yato's guiding voice while Yato is being tempted by Abisu to buy his shrine from the money. Yato calls Hiyori about the matter of Yukine being conflicted about what to do in this situation while Yato is sure of not wanting to lose him. Hiyori is studying with Yukine when he mentions the situation. Daikoku intervenes, telling he is also Kafuku's guiding voice since she also owns only him as regalia. He also explains how Yukine has to decide how to protect Yato. Yukine doesn't want to leave Yato as well but also insults Yato about not being rich. Yato gets a client about catching a bank transfer scam while Yukine thinks he should raise his fee from 5 yen. Yato, however, wants to create a name first rather than money first. He knows humans prefer money over everything, which is why all his previous regalias left him, and this one might do too. Yukine figures this is why he has to rely on Nora whenever he needs support. The scammer turns out to have a greedy phantom the size of a flea attached to him. It is so small that Yukine cannot attack him with the blade and Yato misses him before he can use his hands properly. Yato follows them while Yukine rushes to get the money that Abisu left for Yato to build a shrine. He uses that money to feed the phantom and have it grow as he realizes he shouldn't let greed affect him if he is the guiding voice of a god. Yato and Hiyori are proud of him, but at the same time, Yato is desperate to have that money for his shrine. Yukine has to use his power as a guiding voice to have Yato focus on killing the phantom. The next day, Yato is hiding in his bed depressed about losing the money for the shrine. Getting a shrine built for him has always been his unfulfilled dream, but things are different now that he has a sweet human attached to him. Hiyori makes a mini shrine for him and gifts him that. Since shrines mean a lot to gods, he tears up pretty badly on finally receiving this honor. Abisu smirks about Yato not giving up on Yukine while his office is filled with masks of phantoms. Abisu turns out to be the corrupted god that has been capturing phantoms and transforming them into hex phantoms that serve him. Yato kept wandering around Hiyori ever since she got him a shrine because he officially got his residence registered this way, although he got it by continuously pestering the office. Yato is in heaven while ranting about how Hiyori's shrine now got him land in Takamagahara. He can attend colloquies, handle merchandise officially, and has a holy book and song dedicated to him. Innocent Yato is so pure with happiness that he overlooks the fact that he only got a teeny piece of land and wrote his song and book. While Yato is busy communicating with other gods in Takamagahara, Hiyori gets worried when she realizes Manabu has completely forgotten about Yato. Yukine visits Bishamon, more precisely Kazuma, because he wants Kazuma to teach him invocations so he can be stronger for Yato. Hiyori is a little troubled at why Yato keeps texting her if not meeting her every moment, but Kafuku explains that Yato has been surviving on people's scattered memories of him for years, but now that he has her, he can live off without worry of getting forgotten. If gods like Yato are forgotten by everyone, they disappear from existence since their purpose has been fulfilled. Hiyori worries about forgetting Yato, but Daikoku tells her to not worry. He believes Yato might have some believers somewhere in the world to have survived this long like that. Yukine gets bullied while training with Kazuma. The inked faces creates good happy fun around Kafuku's place in the evening while Yato is heavily drunk and talking about how his childhood self should see he finally got a shrine. Everyone wonders what Yato's past could have been like. Late at night, Yato is called out by Hiro. He tells her that he doesn't want to throw away his happiness and friends, so he wants to break any associations with her, but he gets a reality check that he is the reason she became a Nora. She then has him attacked by her hex phantoms and takes him with her. Hiyori worries about Yato's disappearance for weeks along with the fear of forgetting him, while everyone else just assumes he disappeared for some reason. On the other hand, Yato is being used by Hiro and her father to do the job of murdering revenge for people and not being allowed to leave their place. Bishamon and Okunenashi visit Abisu due to his affected health, unaware that the real reason is his creating hex phantoms. The two worry about him having some unreliable regalia, not knowing he is the corruption himself. Yato continues to act like a puppet and murder people until he realizes the possibility of Hiyori forgetting him since a month has already passed since he disappeared. He creates a commotion of wanting to leave. Hiro tells Yato's father about Yato expressing to leave, something he has never done before, so the father assigns him one last job in the underworld before he can leave. As Hiro and Yato enter the underworld, she tells him to worry about not coming across Izanami, the deathless god who dwells in the underworld, as she doesn't let anyone leave if encountered. Hiyori's friend gets a ticket for Capital Land and she is about to say she wants to go with someone but takes an unusual pause before coming up with a name. The flow of conversation then shifts. A meeting of gods is called in colloquy, which is strangely being attended by Kafuku too this time. She hoped to see Yato but didn't find him there. Yato travels around the underworld worrying about wanting to get back to his family of two while Hiro keeps trying to manipulate him about their duo being the best. They suddenly come across Abisu. In the meeting, it is revealed that Abisu, the god absent from the meeting, has been conjuring phantoms and is thereby ready to be arrested, but the other 6 gods seem to be in shock about the statement. Yato confronts Abisu while Hiro reveals they are there to save Abisu. Seeing his health, Yato realizes Abisu has been conjuring phantoms, but Abisu simply wants more strength as he finds this alluring. He tells Yato he needs to see Izanami to get a location brush while Yato just wants to take him and leave. Suddenly, the two are trapped and brought in front of Izanami, but ironically, she looks like 2 different people for both of them. Yato sees Hiyori while Abisu sees an older woman. Izanami, as Hiyori, tries to seduce Yato into staying, but he is brought to reality by Hiro. Abisu tells Yato he doesn't plan on negotiating much with Izanami. Abisu requests Izanami for the location brush, which she eventually agrees to give if one of them stays back with her. Hiyori enjoys Kappa Land but keeps coming up with the mention of Yato and Yukine stopping at their names, highlighting she has started to forget about them. Abisu starts a fight with Yato about leaving him behind while simultaneously questioning why Yato likes living when he doesn't have anyone, but Yato likes to live because he was born from the wishes of people just like any other god. Yato is defeated eventually by Abisu, who points a gun at his head, but it is only a distraction for Izanami so his phantom can steal the location brush. Turns out Hiro was also named by Abisu once, and this was all a plan of Abisu to get the brush. The two rush to leave afterward. Hiyori is enjoying her day but keeps missing something very close to her the entire time. By the end of the day, she feels troubled by not recalling who she is trying to remember. Hiyori worries about the heavy feeling she has been having, but it all comes out when she suddenly hears Yukine's voice. It takes her a while to finally see him, but the moment she reads his name, she breaks down about finally remembering everything. Yukine seems mad at Yato for not telling them about his whereabouts. Hiyori suddenly leaves her body to go and search around for Yato desperately, since she has realized she is no different and will forget him if she doesn't see him constantly. Yato and Abisu try to escape but are having a hard time. Hiro makes one of the regalias of Abisu sacrifice his life to save Abisu. Yato questions why Abisu has to be so desperate for this location brush, making Abisu finally speak out the truth. Abisu wants to make this world a better place and is ready to go to any lengths to acquire this brush that can keep in check the phantoms. Yato is genuinely surprised and impressed that Abisu didn't have any selfish ulterior motive but was doing it all for humanity. This impresses him to the extent that he starts fighting Izanami's subordinates with all his might to save Abisu, not because his father and Hiro commanded it, but because he wants to do this. He also feels determined to get back to Hiyori and make her happy in every way too. Hiyori starts studying different gods in books and online to find out more about Yato now that she has realized she doesn't know much about him. Kazuma visits Tenjin's shrine wanting help to find the whereabouts of Abisu. Tsuyu, who is originally the spirit of a plum tree, talks to other trees and gets to know Abisu is seen at the entrance of the underworld. Not only that, 2 other people were seen around whose resemblances hint at them being Yato and Hiro. The rest 6 gods are held captive by the guards of the heavens while they find Abisu and put him to death. Okunanashi resists it all, ready to hunt down Abisu himself if he has been corrupted. Kazuma also comes to rescue Bishamon and takes her away while the other gods handle the situation here. Hiyori also manages to convince Yukine that she will accompany him to the entrance, while Yukine seems pissed at Yato for being with Hiro. Abisu knows he is indebted to Yato as he made him flee while standing back himself, but to his bad luck, the openings to the cave have been sealed by Izanami. He feels like things are going to end now for him and decides to tell Izanami that he will stay instead of Yato because he is well aware he will be born again once he dies. However, Yato is not ready to let that happen, as all the efforts of Abisu will be gone with this personality once he goes through succession. Yato makes him mention a wish and decides to grant it as part of his 5-yen job. Abisu questions how they will leave with the sealed exits, making Yato scream for him to drill a hole or find a way if he wants to master controlling phantoms. Abisu gets the idea and smirks before ordering his phantoms to create a vent for them to leave. Yato is impressed that Abisu managed to do that, but by the time he creates a protection for Abisu, he gets caught and pulled down by Izanami. Bishamon looks for Abisu near the underworld when she sees the huge light of the vent. Yukine and Hiyori also follow the opening, but Hiyori disappears midway. She has been restrained by Kyugaha. Yukine comes back in time but cannot restrain Kyugaha since he is a Nora. Kyugaha starts getting to the head of Yukine that he is weak and his status does not justify the support he can grant to Yato. He makes it all about Yato taking Hiro because she is stronger than Yukine, but thankfully for Yukine, Hiyori is there for him. Hiyori uses the little gaps between dodging Kugaha's attacks to tell Yukine to not take those words to heart, as Yato considers Yukine his pride and joy. Her aim is fulfilled as Yukine suddenly fights back and defends themselves, clearly showing who the stronger one is in the dynamic. Yato is brutally injured yet relieved that he managed to save Abisu, and he did it not because his father asked him to but because he wanted to do it. Bishamon and Kazuma find Abisu while Yukine and Hiyori also catch up to them. Abisu tells them they need to get Yato out before the vent closes. Inside the vent, Yato barely dodges Izanami and rests for a while with Hiro. He starts getting the thoughts that maybe he should stick to Hiro, who has been with her since childhood, but a sudden thought of Hiyori and Yukine is enough to make him realize what he wants. He starts limping to find an exit but gets caught by Izanami. Hiyori and Yukine wonder how to go inside when Kafuku and Daikoku also appear there. Kafuku mentions how it's dangerous for Hiyori the most to go inside, while Yukine requests Bishamon to take him inside as he is willing to do anything to protect Yato. It's when Kafuku mentions that he has to become a Nora to sneak into the underworld that Yukine falters a little. Bishamon tells him she will go alone and bring Yato back. She enters the vent created by Kafuku, ready to bring Yato back because people await him outside. Bishamon tells her regalia is to only lend support in escaping and not try to defeat Izanami. Even though they are just trying to defend themselves, it is still hard to phase Izanami with their attacks. Yato finds it idiotic that Bishamon came down just because she feels indebted to him. It is only until Bishamon mentions Hiyori and Yukine waiting for him that he stops his defeated act and resists the ties he is currently in. Outside, everyone worries for them when Abisu wakes up. He can see Yato also has people worried for him. He tells everyone that Yato can be saved in one way, but that would require the only human present amongst them. The Heaves decide that no matter what reason Abisu had to conjure phantoms and Noras, the punishment is for him to be executed. Bishamon is fighting inside with all her might, but as everyone says, Izanami is not someone as easily defeatable. Bishamon ends up being cornered and Kazuma is taken away by Izanami while she orders her subordinates to feast upon Bishamon. Meanwhile, Yato tries his level best to get rid of his ties. Outside, Abisu also believes that even Bishamon would have a hard time against Izanami. He tells Hiyori to use the method of soul call and call the name of the god to bind them to the near shore and summon them outside. Hiyori rushes to do so for Yato. While Izanami tries to force-feed Yato some food to bind him inside, one of the regalias of Bishamon helps her get free from the ties. Bishamon then pushes Izanami away from Yato and is in the middle of challenging Izanami to return Yato when her name is called and she disappears. Yato realizes that he just witnessed a soul call, which means he can leave too if his name is called. Bishamon is shocked at what just happened while everyone else is still worried about why the soul call won't work on Yato. The only possible answer is that Yato is not his real name, but sadly enough, Yato has never shared anything about his past with anyone. Their worries rise when the Heaven's Punishers appear in the place. Yato feels happy and hopeful that he can return anytime soon now, but Hiro reminds him of the bitter reality that he never told anyone his real name. Yato falls back in defeat at the hands of Izanami, aware that he didn't do so because he did not want anyone to hate him for his past self. The Heaven Punishers don't listen to Bishamon to give Abisu a chance to explain himself, and they plan to hold Bishamon accountable too if she keeps acting like this. Abisu, who was first unbothered by death, now has a will to live after meeting with Yato. He uses his phantoms to defend against the rain of arrows showered at him while Hiyori still tries to get her voice to reach a pained and lost Yato. She is confident Yato is somewhere under his real name because of how emotional he gets seeing his shrine. Suddenly, the last syllable of his name strikes her mind and she screams the name Yaboku instead of Yato. The next moment, everyone is shocked to see Yato out and lying to Hiyori. The three finally sigh in relief of being back around each other. Abisu worries upon seeing Takemikazuchi's regalia, Kyun, summoned in its thunder dragon form, as his phantoms don't stand a chance against it. Bishamon protects Abisu and asks everyone to run while she deals with Kyun. Even the Heaven Punishers mock Bishamon for asking Kazuma to lend his support to defeat Kyun, but the next few moments of Kyun being tortured to defeat are enough to answer how strong Bishamon and Kazuma are together. Yukine cannot hold it anymore and starts complaining about Yato hiding things from him and not trusting him while he is ready to give everything to Yato. Yato tries to talk but gets cut off by Yukine's angry rant. The Heaven Punishers go to the extent of creating a pacification ring to publicly execute Abisu. Abisu cannot do much about this lunacy, but Yato wants to fulfill his promise of getting Abisu lunch at Olive Tavern. He explicitly mentions to Yukine about relying on him to deal with this and cuts the ring in half with Yukine. This is a successful attempt only until the ring appears back, but this time beneath Abisu instead of above him. Yato walks around the town with a location on paper, but he is not alone. He is accompanied by a serious-looking clumsy kid who cannot tie his shoelaces. The two sit at Olive Tavern as the kid turns out to be Abisu's successor. Yukine and Hiyori sit in Takamagahara talking about how it was nice of Bishamon to let Yato stay in a recovery room at her place. Bishamon and Kazuma come running to them mentioning that Yato has vanished with Abisu and Kazuma's wallet. Abisu orders his regular there as if he knows what he likes even though he has no memory of his past life. Yato tells him it was a promise to Abisu's previous self by him. This makes Yato a little emotional as he does not want Abisu to have a succession. Hiyori and Yukine peek inside the restaurant while Yato talks to Abisu about knowing only his past self. While Abisu enjoys the food that he once again has found to love, he keeps talking to Yato about not remembering anything from his past. However, it is evident that it is in Abisu's nature to love people and wish for their happiness since this little kid Abisu keeps mentioning wanting to be a good god and hoping he was a nice one in his past self. Seeing Yato quiet, he starts getting sad as he has heard he was executed by the heavens, so he must have done something bad. This makes Yato open up as he starts praising Abisu for being someone who sacrificed his life for humanity. Yato recalls the traumatic moment of having Abisu die in his arms while his last words were not wanting to die. Even though this little Abisu doesn't blame him, but Yato desperately asks for forgiveness hoping it will give him some closure. Young Abisu reports to Bishamon and other gods about Kunimi being chosen as his new guiding voice as the former one, Iwami, is to be expelled. However, since Iwami knows all about his past, he hopes Bishamon can help him hide Iwami from the heavens. Kunimi later briefs everyone about why Abisu was doing it all and about the location brush disappearing while Abisu still communicates fondly with everyone. His persona of wanting the happiness of others still hasn't changed even after succession. At night, Yato takes Yukine outside to meet. The place being nearby makes Hiyori smell their scent and follow it. She witnesses as Yato confesses to Yukine about being a murderer not only in the far past, but recently too. However, Hiro appears there so Yato confronts her about the whole Abisu situation. He had figured, but Hiro confirmed that indeed the evil conjurer was his father. Abisu was coincidentally conjuring phantoms at the same time, so he was used as bait to cover up for his father as part of a plan. As Hiro continues to diss Yukine, Yato is finally done. He calls her name and releases her from his association. Yato then turns towards Yukine, wanting Yukine to guide him to make people happy and become a god of fortune while all he knows is fighting and killing. Yukine tells him to then kill the evil before it can harm people. Yukine also makes it his aim to not let Yato murder people anymore and help him kill phantoms to serve people. Hiyori prays from behind for them to succeed in their new ambitions. As the three of them have a happy time, Fujisaki, the guy who was at Capital Land with Hiyori, plays with the location brush in his hand while talking to Hiro about Yato finally hitting his rebellious phase and defying his father. That concludes Anime Recap. As always, if you enjoyed, let me know down below, and if you'd like to see an anime recapped, let me know. I'm out.